and welcome to another episode of Monday Night Therapy, where we seek to discover, will Nebraska fans ever find happiness? Well,
I'm happy.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's because you're delusional. There's a difference between happy and delusional.
I do have that. I do have that going on. Yeah. Yep. I do. You're not happy?
Well, I'm, kind of, no. I mean, my God, you go out and you play probably the most complete game we've seen in quite a while from a Nebraska team.
True.
I mean, even if you go back to last year, they kind of patchwork things together in some of their few victories. In this game, we went out a little rough on offense the first half. Defense clicked all over the place. Special teams didn't embarrass anybody. And you go out and you play good football and everybody goes, yeah, all right. And then we get the news today that two of our top three running backs are out for the season. What the hell? What the hell?
Well, it's football. People get hurt.
They do, but when we talk about these things, son, you don't just sum it up.
Well, so let's get that out of the way so we can talk about the game and talk about good things that make us happy. So,
Here, let me put that up.
If people haven't heard, Matt Rule announced today that two of the top running backs, in fact, I think in the last depth chart, the two top running backs on the Nebraska Cornhusker team are done for the season. Gabe Ervin suffered a dislocated hip. Rahmir Johnson suffered a dislocated shoulder, and so they are finished for the season, which I think that is a huge loss. But I don't think it's a loss that can't be overcome. It's unfortunate. I thought Gabe Ervin, he hasn't played a season yet where he hasn't been injured and missed games. And I've been impressed with him since the start of the season. He's the physical kind of running back, that, give him a little space and he's going to get you 12, 15 yards. I think he's been a real asset to the team. John, I know you really like Rahmir.
Yeah.
He's kind of the Swiss Army knife of running back. So, so it's next man up, and that's Anthony Grant, Emmett Johnson. And now they got to decide whether or not they're going to tap into any of those freshmen that they've brought in that have come in with some pretty high accolades. So, it is a bummer. It is frustrating.
I think the thing that bothers me most about Rahmir Johnson is that I think that he would, I think that he would be an NFL running back, kind of a all around guy. You know what I mean? He wouldn't be a running back you'd run at the line 20 times a game, but I think that he could be a good player in the NFL as one of those guys that can come out of the backfield catching passes or, line up in a slot or something like that. And I just feel like, it just sucks for the guy. Somebody asked earlier, I think in one of the comments, I did a live thing at noon today or around lunch hour today, just because I thought I should do something about the news. And then I thought, well, the easiest thing would be for me to go live because I was in the middle of work stuff and I can just click a few buttons and blab. Somebody had asked, Johnson is a senior. Oh, he's a junior. Somebody said, maybe I said he was a senior.
They're
earlier.
both juniors, I think.
Yeah, they are. Redshirt freshman 2021, 2020 COVID season. 2019, he took his red shirt in his first season. So he is a junior. He didn't use his red shirt up this year. Johnson, they neither of them used their red shirt up this year, so they both can return. And Gabe Ervin is a sophomore. Caleb Ward says, I think they both use their red shirts, or have they? Well, Rahmir Johnson has. I think Gabe Ervin has too.
Yeah, I think he may have.
I'm trying to be more prepared with looking this shit up.
Well, the bottom line is that
Yes,
they
it
both
is.
they both have more time with Nebraska. They both have been a little bit prone to injury, which is unfortunate. But I guess that's kind of the nature of running backs anymore. And I really am disheartened for both of them. And like I said, Gabe Ervin's been kind of a favorite of mine since I first saw him play, and so I'm kind of bummed from that perspective. But the leading rusher from last year has returned. Anthony Grant. Anthony Grant had some nice carries, this weekend, and for some positive yards. And it's time for him, to man up, and he's the next one up. He's the number one dog right now, and now we'll probably get an opportunity to see Emmett Johnson, who, when he was recruited out of Minnesota, he came in with a lot of accolades, a lot of excitement about him. And like I said, we'll probably maybe even see some people further down on the bench to get an idea. Now, I did see a comment in here. I want to put it up because, well, shoot.
I starred a bunch of them.
Well, somebody asked whether or not that we thought whether that they'd. Oh, here we go. Harburg or Sims moves to running back from Brian Hula. I don't think so. We need healthy quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I can tell you from the very first game up at Minnesota, as much as Jeff Sims ran the ball, and in each game since, the number of times that quarterbacks have carried the ball for Nebraska. Well, I thought one of the things Matt Rule had said was we're going to depend less on the quarterback run game. And I don't see much of a change from previous years in terms of, how much the quarterback is carrying the ball. And Heinrich Harburg is not going to finish the season if he continues to take hits, and dish them out like he did on Saturday. I mean, he was wonderful. He looked like a bulldozer at times, but he's going to get banged up if that's what's going to happen.
Come on, Todd. Back in our day, we ran with the quarterbacks. We didn't run them all the time, but they ran a lot. Nobody ever went, boy, they better. That Tommy Frazier should slide because he might get beat up, and then you know what I mean? Come on.
I know what you mean. But
you're just saying the youth are pansies, they're wimpier than we were, that they're soft.
I am not saying that either. I'm just saying that the odds are that they will get bunged up. So that's what I'm saying.
Wait a minute. Okay, let's take some comments, mostly because this James Purdy thing hit me up here. James Marshall, what about Purdy at split back? We still need healthy. He might need to be a quarterback. Yeah. We have guys that we haven't heard of on the depth chart at running back. And we have like 5 fullbacks that probably can, get in the backfield and do some stuff too. So I don't think we need to move roster. There doesn't need to move roster changes around as much as there just needs to be, guys getting on the field that probably wouldn't have previously gotten on the field.
Well, there's another thing that we can keep in mind too. Granted, we haven't heard or seen anything of the incoming freshmen, and maybe they're not ready. But by the same token, with the new redshirt rules, you can play in 4 games and still redshirt. And so, maybe they use a little bit of a committee with some of these new guys, get them a little game experience, but also, save their eligibility.
See that Roger Moore says nobody slid in the 80s. Nobody did because we just, football.
Yeah, we were tougher.
Everybody smashed into everything. On the other hand, with just the general laws of physics, since 1980, I think the people have gotten a lot bigger, faster, and stronger. And therefore, in physics, momentum is mass times velocity. So when you have 2 players that are much larger than they used to be, moving at a greater speed and they're colliding, it's a much bigger collision in terms of physics, and therefore it leads to more injuries.
Yeah, I I think Anthony Grant, Emmett Johnson, you go with those two guys, and then you figure out what you have behind you. And the truth be told, we need healthy quarterbacks too. So I'm not really in favor. I think we're looking in the wrong spot to find a running back with those guys.
Branson Chab says schematically, this could put the Cornhuskers in a very precarious situation moving forward with the quarterback play they have.
I don't disagree with that. I think that is cause for concern. And, it's nice we've got Louisiana Tech this coming week rather than Michigan to find out what we've got. So, I agree with that, Branson, no doubt.
See, here we go. P equals MV. Mass times velocity. Yeah. Momentum. Okay.
So we do have some smart Nebraska fans, huh?
I can remember some of the physics I had. Okay, comments. Wait a minute. Well, go ahead.
No, here's one from Linda. John, I will be married 55 years on Thursday. What are the odds Nebraska can go on that type of a run? Not as good as you having a 56th anniversary is what I'm going to say. Now, John, you might want to jump in. Happy anniversry, Linda.
Happy anniversary, Linda. That's pretty impressive.
I hope I make it to 55 years with my my beloved.
How many years has it been for me?
You're 30 plus, 30 something, yeah. 35 maybe.
I just hope I make it to the next year. That's all I do. I count like 1 week at a time. I don't plan much further out than a week. Wait a minute. Going on a 55-year run, I think it's all dependent upon how long your coaches stay together if you get a good coach. I mean, look at Nick Saban, right? Nick Saban came to Alabama. He got them going. Alabama's going to be as good as Alabama's been as long as Nick Saban is there. And even the Alabama people are like, oh, he's lost it. He should retire. Oh, we lost the game, but we don't look good. Osborne went on a 25, 30-year run, 25 years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive to go on that long a run, especially in today's age where you get fired for just about everything. But the chances are very slim. 55 years. That's pretty impressive.
I'll tell you what, I'll extrapolate that out a little bit. 55, if over the course of I would like to see Matt Rule coach 55 games at Nebraska and, win 70% of them. So, if we could go on that kind of a run for the next 55 games, I'd be really happy with that.
You know what the most impressive thing about that is, Todd?
What?
She's been with the same man for 55 years and she hasn't murdered him. Do you remember Billy Graham's wife said when they asked if had she ever thought about divorcing him, she said, divorce? No. Murder? Homicide? Yes.
Well,
we should move on now.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's talk a little bit about the game.
Wait a minute. I got to put up one more thing.
Oh, okay.
Jazz Flute, right at the beginning, Jazz Flute says, good content. These AI pics are trash, though. He's talking about the thumbnails I use for the Monday night show. I do generate them with Leonardo AI. And no, I tried not to pick the ones that are like nightmare inducing because there are some of those, but I do try to pick the weird ones. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah. I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. So thanks, Jazz Flute. So, okay. Can we talk about the game a little bit?
We could talk about the game a little bit.
So you had the advantage of being able to watch it on TV with replays and all of that kind of stuff. I was in the stadium. I want you to go first. John, what are your overall perceptions of the game? What did you think during the game? And once the dust cleared, what are your thoughts?
You know what I didn't do? I think the biggest thing for me is what I did not do during the game. I did not feel like whenever Harburg went back to pass, I didn't feel like my whole world was going to collapse at any moment. Every time I didn't hold my breath a lot. I didn't like, oh God, there's a snap. They put a guy in motion. Will he actually get the snap? I never did that. That's different. For these first two games, it's been kind of like, it's constant. God. Heinrich Harburg at the beginning, when he goes back to pass, we've all heard, oh, he's not a very good passer. And then he went out and
he zipped it.
Yeah, threw some really good passes. So I guess that was it. That's the biggest thing I took away from it, is that I didn't just freak out all the time on offense.
Well, I'll tell you what, the thing that did bother me, I'm just going to capitalize a little bit on what you said there. From where I was at, and I'm way up there on the east side. It really bothered me how many passes Heinrich Harburg kind of slung sidearm, kind of the whole Patrick Mahomes thing.
Right.
And, but then again, understand where my perception of what I saw. I mean, that frustrated me a little bit, because I think sometimes, and he wasn't picked off, but I think sometimes try and make something out of nothing is a problem. That being said, maybe more time out there on the field, he'll take a couple of steps so he can get a little bit more on the ball. I'll tell you what, I was impressed with his performance. I thought he played very well. Even that turnover, he was standing there trying to make a play. I don't have anything negative to say about Heinrich Harburg. I thought the defense played once again. I'll tell you what, they are a blast to watch. What did I hear? They're playing 27, 28, 29 guys a game. I mean, holy crap. You got to have your scorecard right in front of you to even figure out who's out there. There is a liability out there. There is a liability, and the coaches found it, and they benched him later on. I hope we don't see 31 on defense anymore. He gets beat, and I don't know what it is. He must have tremendous athletic ability, because they use him on both sides of the ball. They run him deep. He's got some speed. They haven't connected with him yet. But, boy, I'll tell you what, he got burnt at Colorado, and he got burnt twice the other night. And he also had an interference call against him. I just don't know. I mean, he's easy to like because he's a likable kid, but by golly, he's got to play better on defense. That's my only negative, to say on the night.
Branson Chad with a super chat. Thank you, Branson. I find the injuries particularly concerning because of the upcoming Big Ten games and the uncertainty within the offense. It will be fascinating to see how Coach Rule adapts to this. Well, they have 1 week against Louisiana Tech to get a little bit less, uncertainty with the team. So I think they've gotten better week by week.
I think they have to. But it's a huge challenge. It is a huge challenge.
Maybe it was getting better. Okay.
Roger Moore says the good news is that Todd's not on IR. Well, I do appreciate that. I try to show up, a little injured, a little bummed up after the game, but otherwise I'm feeling good. And Roger also said Todd's looking good. I try. I do shower daily. I don't understand all of the Todd love, and then all of a sudden, Fred, Todd's looking good. Wonder if he ended up on the volleyball team's hot dudes calendar. If there is a volleyball team hot dudes calendar, I would like to be on that calendar. I don't consider myself a hot dude, but to be associated,
this would do it for you. This would be like
to be associated with a volleyball team in any way, shape, or form. I'd love that. So, and
okay. All right. Okay.
Oh, we got to have better stuff to talk about than that.
Let's say Michael Hansen. The positive is that Grant gets a chance to shine and be a star if he is able to, line willing, and he stays healthy. I think we saw a lot of Grant's running abilities in the Northern Illinois game where he just made yardage. I guess as long as he can hang on to the ball, I mean.
Hey, let's talk about that just a minute. I read something. I understand that prior to the start of the year, he found himself at number 3 on the depth chart. Matt Rule came out and said he's got to correct some fumbling issues. And they had said in the previous scrimmage he had some fumbles. Do you remember that guy fumbling last year?
Grant?
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't either. Not
but my memory isn't the best.
Well, mine isn't either. I don't know. Anyway,
go ahead.
I'm glad to see that he's going to have another opportunity to be the starter out there again.
They don't track fumbles per player.
I understand that.
David Matney says,
go ahead, John.
Don't you think the kids today are faster and stronger and played more hours, therefore more prone to injuries? What do you think of that, Todd?
Kids today are faster. Kids today are stronger. But part of strength and conditioning programs is to make you less susceptible to injury.
Right.
So, that was the whole idea behind Boyd Epley and Husker power back in the day. That all being said, John mentioned earlier, the mass times velocity. Some of those collisions out there are vicious, and the human body can only sustain so much. But I'm going to look at the second part of this. They play more, therefore they're more prone to injuries. I don't know if this is necessarily true in football. It's certainly true in other sports, what they call overuse, because kids are focusing on one sport. And maybe that is the case with football players, because we know that there are football players that, all they've done is play football. And so maybe some of that overuse is prevalent with some players. But I don't know. It's a tough game. And, they can talk all they want to about back in the old days. And, they've done things to try to make it safer out on the field for players. When John and I were kids, we both remember Jack Tatum and how he could just lay people out. I mean, he was just vicious. He was a missile. But, watching these guys today and having been down close to the field occasionally, they punish people. I mean, it is an incredibly physical game.
Fred Sacco gives us a super chat. John didn't hide in his ruleberry bush this game. You know what? It was at night, and it's dark in my backyard. And I thought about turning the light on, but then I thought, I don't want to go I got to find different ways to do the reactions. But, the whole being dark out thing is a kind of a concern. So no, I didn't. There are a lot of people that commented that I was sitting in poison oak. It's a big, giant raspberry bush in my backyard, which produces delicious, fresh raspberries during the summer. Justin Rogie earlier says, John, did you hear you got a shout out from Husker Sports Radio during the pregame show? No, I didn't hear anything about that. What was that about?
I'll throw this one up here. Charles, thanks for bringing up this memory here. 21 catches for 405 yards. Troy Edwards tore up the Huskers defense in a loss. That was a Louisiana Tech game that I think a lot of Nebraska fans would just as soon forget. What was the quarterback's name? Rattay or something like
Tim
that?
Rattay. Yeah.
Tim Rattay. Holy smokes. I mean, you really had to question if Nebraska was any good, watching the way that those two guys connected and just shredded the team. That's been quite a few years back.
I think, I think in that game, who was Solich the coach?
Was it?
I think it was Solich the coach. He let Ralph Brown cover Troy Edwards in that game. If I remember right, it was one of the Browns. I think it was Ralph Brown, but he couldn't stay with them. And I think our coaches looked at him and said, hey, if you want experience covering a guy that's going to be in the NFL, there he is. Do your best. And they didn't really change the defense a lot. There was no threat to Louisiana Tech winning that game, but him putting up 405 yards as a receiver was pretty amazing. I remember it toward the end of the game. Tim Rattay would be screaming at him to get back to the line of scrimmage. And Troy Edwards was so exhausting from running fly routes, he could barely walk back to the line of scrimmage. It was pretty wild. Maybe we'll see that this weekend, Todd.
Well, if so, I hope it's one of our guys. I don't think so. I don't know. I'm real curious about I don't know anything about Louisiana Tech though, so I don't even know what to expect.
Minnie Hunt says, "Hey, John Harburg's nickname is H." Is that true? I said something in the post game reaction video about he needs a nickname. H, just H. What the hell is that? That's not a nickname. It's like something you can text easily. It's just,
Well, Mike, thanks for bringing me back to reality. Yeah, I do in fact resemble a volleyball. So
I didn't see that one.
um, so John, you always ask me this question, so I'm going to ask you before you have a chance to ask me. Did
What?
you watch any other football this weekend?
Yes, I did.
So what did you see?
Well, I saw the Big Ten West that is still having a hell of a time with everything. And you know what? I saw Penn State and Illinois play, and that game was closer than the score indicated. But at the same time, Illinois, I don't know how many interceptions their guy threw, but they were a quarterback away from making it a much more competitive game. But their defense is still, has a lot of issues. Let's see. Wisconsin beat Georgia Southern 35-14. Their first half was atrocious. And, you kind of looked at it, put it this way: Wisconsin has struggled until they started going back to what they've always done. And that's they started letting Braylon Edwards take over the game and just get a chunk yardage against the Golden Eagles. Let's see, Indiana, Louisville. That one's not Indiana. Tom Allen's got to be fired at the end of this season.
Did you watch any of the Save Brian Ferentz's job game?
I didn't. I watched bits and pieces of it, but I mean, 41-10 over the Western Michigan Broncos. He scored and he scored, and like, what was there, like 10 seconds left? And
I was told they scored with like 30 seconds left on the clock. When
Yeah.
they should have been taking a knee against an inferior
Right.
opponent. But he's got to get that average up above 25.
Northwestern, Duke beat them 38-14. Northwestern's just terrible. And the Golden Gophers, I mean, we have Gophers fans that I live with, and we watched that whole game. And Minnesota, well, let's just say North Carolina was executed way better. Ethan Kaliakamanis, the Minnesota quarterback, did not play very well. It wasn't a good game for Minnesota. And I there's still people that think they're going to win the Big Ten West. That's certainly a possibility because the Big Ten West looks like, quite frankly, you know what it looks like, Todd? It looks like a trash heap that somebody it's still going to be at the top of the trash heap. You know what I mean? And you're going to go, yeah, I'm the king of this mountain. Then you're going to look over at the East champion and go, oh, God. You're standing.
So it's kind of like in the Big Ten West, the first one that gets it figured out may be the one that's the last one standing.
That's exactly it. I think that's it. I mean, Wisconsin's Tanner Mordecai did not look very good at times. It really is, I think, going to come down to who figures their team out the fastest this season. And I put it between Iowa, and I think they had kind of had their team figured out. It's a matter of keeping Cade McNamara healthy. Minnesota, but I don't know. I think I'd put them down. Nebraska, and then one more team. Come on. Wisconsin. Yeah. If Wisconsin could figure out their offense, I think they're going to be in good shape toward the end of the season. Washington beat the living snot out of Michigan State because Washington is pretty decent and Michigan State is absolutely lost. The news was today about Mel Tucker at Michigan State that they had officially fired papers to notify him he's being fired. Filed papers.
Yeah.
Because apparently there's a process to this whole thing where you torture a guy. You send him like emails. You say, you're going to get fired. You're not yet, though. You're going to lose a shit ton of money. Millions, in fact. But not yet. It's coming soon. I mean, think about that. That's just, God, that sounds terrible. Purdue lost to Syracuse. Again, who's going to win the Big Ten West? I don't know. Again, if we can figure this out, if we can figure out our offense, I think we figured out 2/3 of the game. But if we can figure out our offense, then I think we're going to be in decent shape.
I think we would be too. And you know, another game to try to get it right. Unfortunately, not with the top running backs. So, well, what about this one, John? Any thoughts on the late hit on Travis Hunter in the Colorado game? How about the Colorado game in general? Did you watch any of the Colorado?
I stayed up and watched the whole thing.
Yeah,
because it was a good game. I mean, it was, I honestly, I'll be blunt. I wanted to watch Colorado lose, and they should have lost. But Colorado State punched the ball all the way down to the Colorado 1 yard line, and Colorado, give them credit, they took apart that prevent defense in soft coverage. As if, they kind of went, oh, look, they're in soft coverage against our speedy receivers. We're going to throw the ball all over, and Colorado came back and won. David says, any thoughts on the late hit on Travis Hunter in the Colorado game? Well, number one, it's part of football. I mean, I'd see a lot of people on Twitter saying the kid that hit him should have been suspended, should be suspended by the conference. Come on. It's a late hit. He got penalized for what the penalty is on the field. If it wasn't Travis Hunter, nobody would give a shit about this whole suspension thing. And in fact, Travis Hunter put out a video of himself saying in a very cute onesie, that's part of football. Basically, he just said it's football, and I just, need to put up with it. I think there's a lot of people that would say, he deserved it for trash talking. And I think in football, when you're on a football field, trash talking does bring that out in people. The other thing I'd say is I've just lost it. My God, the kid who hit him, apparently his parents' cell phones have been published on the internet. They've gotten death threats. They've been doxxed where their addresses have been published on the internet. Apparently because, I don't know if it's the whole Dion environment that creates that, or if it's just shitty Colorado fans, which is redundant. But that kid doesn't deserve to have all that shit thrown at him. It's stuff that happens on a football field. I mean, it's not like, I don't think he personally went out and tried to injure him. And then the other thing people keep bringing up is Shadir Sanders tried to poke a kid in the eye during the game, and nobody did anything about that.
Nobody seemed to bother with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Fred Sacco says, I went to bed when CSU was up 28-20, happy that they were winning and not wanting to see the end, but God hates me. Yeah, I went to bed at the start of the fourth quarter myself. You know what blew my mind? And because I was driving home from the game in Lincoln, and so I missed the early part of the game. But right before halftime, they threw a graphic up that between the two teams, they had 16 penalties, and they'd already had two dust-ups between the team. Get used to it. And that's going to be, that's one of the reasons why Colorado is going to be primetime viewing all season. And Deion Sanders has been a master at getting the spotlight on himself. Back when he was in college, he was just the same way. And, they will have everyone's attention, whether they're, as good of a football team as they think they are, or if they're as good a football team as other people think they are. People are going to be watching, whatever happens. Now, they got SC coming up, don't they, this weekend?
I think. Yeah, Oregon. They have Oregon first, I think. Okay. Yeah.
So, maybe there'll be a little bit of a reality check there. Who knows?
Okay. Wait, there was another one. Come on. MWI 87 says we'll be lucky if two of our wide receivers reach 405 yards for the year collectively. Todd, who's the top receiver and how many yards did he have? Through three games. Through 3 games.
I'm going to guess Billy Kemp, the fourth.
He's third.
Thomas Fedoni.
He's fourth.
Marcus Washington.
He's second. Alex Bullock is the top receiver.
Receiver. Yeah, he's number 84. He's number 84.
He's the top receiver so far, and he has 89 yards receiving. So MWI 87 may not be too far off with his assessment. Minnie Hunt with a super chat for John to say Shadir the best. Shadir, I'm really terrible with names. Did I say it right? I don't know. Maybe I didn't.
John, I don't have my glasses on. What?
MWI 87, John and Todd, you're both currently on camera. Are you taking that personally? Yes.
Oh, now I get it.
I take everything personally.
I do too. Everything's personal with me as well.
That's why I go on the internet. Okay.
Okay. Let's go there.
With this comment?
Well, this kind of goes a direction that I wanted to talk a little bit about.
Ted Hilker, I have a question for you. Yeah. Ted Hilker, I really wish we could talk Sims into playing running back. Now hold that. There's a lot of coaches who believe in the philosophy that you should not lose your starting job to injury. Do you believe in that philosophy?
I believe that Jeff Sims should and will start the game on Saturday. I believe that. Jeff Sims deserves an opportunity to show that he is the number one quarterback. He hasn't had the chance to play in front of a home crowd. He's played quarterback. He started the game against 2 Power 5 teams. We all know he shot himself in the foot. Those turnovers are his fault. But going into this season, he was the number one guy, and he deserves an opportunity to show that he is the number one guy. Now, that is a way around your question. Do I believe you should lose your starting position due to an injury? I don't think so. Tom Osborne had that philosophy, and other coaches do too. So
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, just
there's got to be a reason behind a philosophy, Todd.
Well, if you come back from that injury, and if you are playing at the same level, or if you are practicing at the same level or better, I think you should have an opportunity to go back out there and win your job. I think so.
Okay, now you can answer the question that I put away. Why aren't we talking about Jeff Sims, a running back?
I guess I don't know. We need quarterbacks.
Yeah.
We have a lot of running backs. We need quarterbacks. We heard the same thing back with Adrian Martinez. We heard the same thing with Taylor Martinez. We did. Anytime we have a really good running quarterback, for some reason, people seem to think that they should be a running back. It's a different position.
Alex Fall with a very good point. And this is why I like doing the shows live, is because I don't like to pretend I know everything. And Alex has a very good point. Alex says penalizing players on the depth chart because of injury creates an environment where players try to hide injuries. Don't you think, Todd?
I think it does, and I think that could be detrimental.
Yeah, that would be bad. Especially with the head injuries that we know more about now.
Yeah. And I'm trying to stay up watching some of the chat. And I understand that a lot of quarterbacks, and the 2 that Nebraska has been playing this year, they could play other positions. Harvard could play tight end. Jeff Sims maybe would be a decent running back. They could play other positions, but right now they're quarterbacks, and we need quarterbacks.
James Marshall comes in and says Sims lost his spot due to poor play, not injury. I think the only one that could determine, I think the one that would determine that is Matt Rule. But, I agree with Todd. I think we're going to see Jeff Sims start this game against Louisiana Tech, and we'll see what happens. I mean, if he's going to continue to turn the ball over and put the season in peril, I would think that Matt Rule would pull him out and put Heinrich. Put H in. H.
Before we go on to Fred's comment here, though, let me say this. He will be on a very short leash.
Yeah,
If
short
Sims is
leash.
out there, he's not going to get 3 turnovers before they pull him. I mean, it's not going to be like that. What Heinrich Harburg did the other day, besides, being the quarterback on the winning team, he showed that Nebraska has an option. He showed that there is an option to Jeff Sims. If Jeff Sims can't go, if Jeff Sims can't make the plays, if he can't take care of the turnover problem, Nebraska has another option.
Fred Zacco with a super chat. Thank you, Fred. Enough Sims at running back. He's a quarterback. Handles the ball as well as our former head coach allegedly handled a recruiting visit in Arizona, but he's still a quarterback. And then Jason Reeves comes in with, isn't Monkey Marker still here? Start him. No, Matt Masker has moved on. And for some
Monkey Marker might be the best one, though, that I heard.
In case you don't know what we're talking about, Matt Masker, I think that I wrote his name wrong in an article. And because of the alliteration of his name in game threads throughout the years he was on the team, people would call him every different name except for his real name. It was funny in the game threads. He had to be there. But no, he's not. Money Marker has moved on, and he is no longer with us. There are some other guys that we haven't even talked about ever. Do you know who they are, Todd?
No, I want you to tell me.
Well, should we go through that, or should we? Should we? Come pick a comment, put it up there. Put your glasses up. Can you read?
I'm just grabbing this one. What does it say?
It says you're a wiener boy. Cornhusker Corner says
everything I've just been saying. Oh, that's a good one, Todd.
Corner, but you took it away. I was just going to read it. Cornhusker Corner says yes, and Sims notes showed Nebraska has no option. 7 turnovers in 2 games and 4 years of being the turnovers leader at quarterback in college football. I don't think he's been around 4 years. I think he's been around maybe 2. Todd,
yeah.
Do you have LASIK?
Yes.
Do you? And you still can't read?
Well, I need reading glasses. I
thought the LASIK thing was supposed to take care of all.
I was nearsighted. It took care of my nearsightedness, so I can see very well far away. But I'm old like you, and I need glasses to be able to read.
I know, thank you. Okay, at quarterback, we still have Luke Longval, who is a redshirt freshman from Sioux City, Iowa, and we have Jack Wosh, who is a redshirt freshman from Austin, Texas. And we haven't heard anything about either of those guys. So, maybe we could see. Charles Hellett, maybe we need to shout in the chat. I have headphones on specifically. Well, let's move on. I'm not starring many comments. They're going by. Okay, Alex Fall, is there any chance of changes on the offensive line with Ben Hart being good for at least 1-2 no plays a game? I saw Latoski swapped from time to time with Newili from time to time. I think they're playing. I mean, consider the fact that we have very, very, very few seniors on this team. I think that we've all paid attention. Maybe I should finish the sentence. They are playing quite a number of people, I think, on both offense and defense. And we paid more attention to the defensive numbers.
Well, it seemed like every time I looked out there, Lutowski was on the field. So I think he got quite a few snaps out there. They brought Teddy in when they ran an unbalanced line. And more often than not, he was on the right side of the line. I guess most of the time we've considered Prochaska to be a left tackle. But they put him out there on the right side next to Ben Hart quite a few times and ran some power plays behind them. So it's good that he's getting out there and getting some reps. It's the offensive line has to work people in. It's like about any other position. They've got to get people some reps. in under game time situations.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the game book, right? They put out a game book after the game is over, and that is the official like scoring book for the game. And the game book always includes a participation report. So in this week's participation report, we see like Joshua Fleeks, who was on the field, Chuba Purdy obviously on the field, Taman Lynham, Malachi Coleman, Ty Hahn. Prince Will, again, that guy's on defense. Emmett Johnson was on, I don't think he got in as a running back. I think he was in as, did he? I don't think so.
He was on one. No, not.
He's a kick return. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But when you go through, in the participation report, honestly, there's a whole gob of guys here that I have no idea who they are, to be honest. I should know these names and I don't. Trayvon Rudolph, Isaac Hatfield, Jake Siebert, Joey Ratton.
Special teams players.
Probably. Oh my God, I'm reading the fucking Northern Illinois guys.
No. Well,
talking about too old.
They're not special teams players.
You're never gonna know what you get out of this show from two old guys that can't see or read or anything.
Well, here's one that I can see and read. James Marshall says, we need Harburg to get more experience next week. If Sims plays well against Louisiana Tech, it means little. Sims not once but twice faded in the spotlight. Yeah, he did. And Harburg does need some more opportunities. But, I'm going to put trust and faith in the coaching staff. And when it comes to, I'll tell you what, say what you will. Sims probably would have had a couple of touchdowns running Saturday with the quickness and the speed that he's got, on some of those runs that Harburg had. I think Sims would have ran it to the house. That being said, I'm not taking anything away from Heinrich Harburg. He managed the game well, and he threw some nice balls. But let's see what Jeff Sims can do at home against Louisiana Tech.
Are you done now?
With that one.
Okay. Okay, let's see. You
better put Fred up here.
Fred Sacco, super chat. Thank you, Fred. He's not going to get 3 turnovers before they pull him. Same as Billema at a rub and tug in Champaign, Illinois. He does these to make sure we read them. Oh, my God. Okay. Well, see, Fred, here's one without a super chat. Serious question. Do we think the the Louisiana Tech game, will be a quarterback competition between Pepperidge Farm Sims and Triple H?
No.
You don't?
No. I think Jeff Sims is going to play the game, and I think Heinrich Harburg will come in the fourth quarter.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to prepare myself for that thing that I said at the beginning that I didn't.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
I'm just going to go, the whole freaking game when we're on offense, probably.
You're probably right.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
Carl Balgren says Scott has a bit of nasty in him. Wish the rest of the O-line did. Yes, Carl. I saw it at Colorado. He got flagged once for unsportsmanlike, and that didn't slow him down. He still has an edge to him. He plays with nasty. And there was a lot of chippiness in the game on Saturday. There was a lot of after the whistle crap going on. And generally speaking, Ben Scott was somewhere in the middle of it. Yeah, I'd like to see the rest of the O-line, play with that kind of nasty too.
Ted Hilker says, are we going to wait till Sims makes a critical error in the Michigan game to put in H? Just H. Okay, but are we, Todd? Since you're the guy standing up for Sims here?
I'm not necessarily I'm just saying what's going to happen. I'm saying what he deserves. It might be, Ted. It might be. He might play really well. He might play lights out against Louisiana Tech. He might run for 80 some yards and throw for 300. And then when he goes against Michigan, yeah, he might put the ball on the ground.
It's like me at every holiday dinner that ever existed. What are you going to get out of it? Shit, I didn't even know before I showed up either. There you go. Don Dre says Nebraska has a 70% chance of winning the rest of their games other than Michigan. So says a Kool-Aid drinking Huskers fan. What do you, that's, I don't think he's wrong. Because I guess, like we've said, who figures this out before the other ones is going to be the one that starts winning more games than the other ones. And, it's not just Nebraska that has a ton of crap to figure out. Think about it, Minnesota, right? Minnesota has a 7th-year coach or an 8th-year coach, and they beat us because we gave the ball away and gave the game away. But they are really going to struggle, I think, if they don't figure out how to be more physical, which is weird to say about Minnesota. And then if their quarterback doesn't get his shit together, because they can't just run the ball like they did with Mo. So there's a lot of teams like that.
They don't have the ponies to do it. And, just talking about physical play out, this Nebraska team is as physical of a team as I've seen in quite a few years. I don't know how far back, more physical than any team that Frost coach, more physical than any team that Riley coached. I think you got to go back to the Pelini days, and I'm not just talking about on defense, the offensive line. Well, why don't you read James's comment here?
James Marshall, the performance on the O-line was good on Saturday, but I won't get worked up until they can look at least 2/3 that good against the conference opponent. That's probably a good point.
I think it is a good point. They are playing a more physical style of football. They are firing off. They are, driving, opponents back. I think this offensive line, is going to continue to improve throughout the season. Still see some whiffs from time to time on pass blocking. That's frustrating as hell. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying there, James.
All right, what do we got? Let's see. Louisiana Tech, they're going to play man and pressure on defense, which means, it's going to be up. You know what it means? It means that it's going to be up to our wide receivers to be more physical than they've shown, although that slant play, this past weekend is an example of what they need to do to get good completions, to keep the chains moving. Let's see. I'm trying to find Louisiana Tech. They're going to be more explosive. Northern Illinois on offense, they had a 7th-year quarterback that did not play like a 7th-year quarterback.
Rocky never fulfilled, I think, his promise. Should have stuck to wrestling. He was a hell of a wrestler. Should have pursued that. David Matney says, seemed like we had fewer false starts this game. Yeah. Did we have any?
No, we didn't.
Yeah, that was clean from that perspective. Well, and technically, penalty wise, pretty clean. So, it was when John mentioned early on that it might have been the most complete game they've played in a while. I would concur along those lines.
Okay. Brian Hula says the defense is so good that we don't even talk about them. That's just wrong.
Well, I can talk about them a little bit.
Okay, talk about them.
We're playing 27 or 28 guys. The linebackers are playing lights out. And, it's hard to keep track of who's even in there, and making those plays because, they all kind of look the same. They're playing incredibly aggressive, sideline to sideline. The defensive line is doing what they're supposed to be doing. They are pushing the offensive line. They're making a difference out there. I tell you what, most improved player for me so far this season on the defensive side would be the polar bear, Nash Hutmock. I'll tell you what, that guy is a beast. And, he is playing really, really well. Now, he's not going to light it up on stats, but that's not his job. His job is to get a good push in the middle and take up as many guys as he can. And he just fights and claws in there. But and I'm leaving out the defensive backs, but their coverage this year outside of a cornerback to be named, their coverage has been solid too. Here's the best thing about the defense, though. I should have said this at the outset. They are a tackling bunch of fiends. They hit and they tackle. And, I don't know how many of you guys were aware. Certainly wasn't. Maybe you guys were more tuned in than I was. I didn't realize that during the former coach's era that they weren't tackling during the week. And nor were they ever tackling to the ground other than scrimmages. I didn't know that. Yeah. Boy, you can tell a difference because these guys tackle. They tackle in the open field. They swarm to the ball. Yeah.
Todd.
They're outstanding.
Todd, I got a question.
Yeah.
Where's Nebraska ranked nationally in total defense?
Well, going into this game, weren't they like 70th or 60th or something like that in total defense? I don't know.
They're 30th in total defense.
Well, that's an improvement.
In yards per game. They're 15th in total defense in yards per play. And let's go back real quick. Rushing defense, where do you think they're at?
Rushing defense?
Yes.
20th.
They're third. James Madison is first. Air Force is second. Nebraska is third, giving up 46.33 yards per game. Let's go take a look at pass defense. Where do you think they're at in the pass defense?
Not as good as they are in the running defense.
They're 93rd in pass defense, largely because of the Colorado game. But, that bodes well for our defense. I think going forward, it's going to be a lot of fun to see what they can do. It's just, wow. I don't think anybody expected that at all. David Matme says, you'd think our defensive line would improve our offensive line at practice. Well, they can. Honestly, they probably do. So I think our offensive line looks a lot better. It's mostly getting all the timing and execution down on plays still for me. You're seeing some of the pulling that, they work sometimes. Sometimes they're a little slow. That stuff would be stuff I would like them to see that get ironed out. And I think they'll be breaking a lot more runs.
Well, Ted Hilker says, I never thought I'd see the day when I could beat Tommy Frazier in a race, but I bet I can now. I bet you can too, Ted. Well, I don't know who you are, Ted, but I know who I am, and I think I could at least give him a run for his money. Yeah.
Okay, we are coming up on an hour. I didn't read this whole thing. Cornhusker Corner, that's one thing that is very encouraging. Tackling and physicality is about culture and having hard practices. So I think it is safe to assume rule teams will just play physical week in and week out. Yeah. I mean, it certainly looks like it's going to be more the case. Moving forward with this. Let's see. John Fields says, what are they on sacks, John? If I remember right, they're top in the nation, but we'll take a look real quick.
They were going into the game.
They are third with 14 sacks. Wake Forest has 16, and Louisiana Lafayette has 15. Now let's go to sacks per game, and Nebraska is fourth. So, I mean, they're at the top. Anytime you can get in the top 5 in anything, you're pretty damn good.
Well, it'll be fun to watch them play again this Saturday. So looking forward to that. So, hey, we're not going to sign off here without at least acknowledging the fact that Nebraska has gone through the non-conference season on the volleyball court undefeated. they look really good the last couple of games out, beating a ranked Stanford team, and then they beat Kentucky, who was ranked 21st. They did struggle a little bit in the third set last night, but I'll tell you what, with the freshmen that they have on that volleyball team, they are an exciting team to watch. A lot of fun, and Big Ten season opens here soon, and it won't be long until Nebraska gets a shot to end their losing streak against Wisconsin.
Okay, you were at the game Saturday night.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the light show and all that. Most of this probably didn't get to go.
The light show in the third quarter was cool. It was the only part of what you would classify as the fan experience that I thought was cool. I mean, it was really neat, and the crowd gets jacked up for that. But I don't know. I guess maybe I'm spoiled, but the people that are in charge of creating that fan experience, they need to go to Minnesota and take lessons from them. They need to go some other places too, because there's just too much downtime, dead time, and they need to treat the students better. I'll tell you what, the light show was cool. I'm not sold on pulling a low boy with Herbie shooting T-shirts out of these Gatling guns. That was kind of lame. But they can do better at Nebraska. They need to go see how other people do it.
There were drones making shapes.
That was cool. I couldn't see them. I saw them on a video screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where I sit, we're underneath, and I couldn't see them.
David Matney was obviously at the game. He says the fans went crazy when Harburg H. We're going to call him H from now on. The fans went crazy when H was announced as the starter.
Yeah, they were kind of excited when he was announced. So.
I mean, how does that work? That sounds like something you gasp out in your last breath of your life,
H. Ooh, I'm with this. No, that's not it.
Alex Falls says they should have drones deliver runses in the stands. Those days are coming, Mr. Fall. I wouldn't expect that it's that far away. I mean, you get given a little maybe tag or something with your ticket, and that's your, come to me delivery thing. Of course, people are going to pull them out of the air and smash them because they'll be drunk and angry. But the future looks exciting. Fred Sacco says, what does Minnesota do better than Nebraska? I have an attention span better than a flash cube. What was the problem?
Oh, I don't even want to go into it.
Oh, come on. You opened it up. You started this cans of worms.
I'll tell you what, one thing that Nebraska needs to do, and you've been on this bandwagon before, they need to get the students out of a corner. They need to put the students where they can have an impact on the game, and they need to quit restricting the number of tickets that are sold to students. At the Minnesota game, they had the entire end zone. And, I don't know. I couldn't tell you for sure, but there were at least 1.5 times as many students at the game in Minnesota as there were at Nebraska, maybe twice as many. And those kids, at every timeout, they are doing something to get those students fired up and engaged in the game. And, the same thing for the crowd. At Nebraska games, they're too busy pitching about this sponsor or showing a video about that sponsor or talking about homegrown Huskers or those types of things. If you want the fans, go to a game and notice the silence. Notice how much when the game isn't on, notice how quiet it is in that stadium. It's just different.
Okay, we're going to finish up here because Charles Hullett says, I hope people don't boo Sims unless he fumbles the ball and just looks at it. I'd agree with that. Don't boo a guy just because he comes on the field as a starter. That's certainly not a way to build a guy's confidence. And I realize that a lot of us have this attitude of, well, they're getting all this money for nil. They should be able to take it. They're still our guys. We're still on the same side, right? So David Matney comes back with, how about better mics at the press conferences for the questions? That'd be nice.
That'd be nice to know what the questions actually are.
Richard Fitzwell says they need to bring down the student section to the front rows and get loud as shit. Agreed.
Yep.
Lyndon Wilkins points out the problem, and that is more money in season tickets than from the student sales. And she's right. But the thing is I don't know. Do you have to soak every last freaking penny out of this stuff? Because your future is dependent upon having those people back. And we seem to be missing that. It's quite frankly, as older people, we seem to be missing the fact that we should be taking care of our youth instead of taking everything from them for ourselves.
Well, Trev Alberts has said that it bothers him that the highest ticket for a home game in the Big Ten is at Nebraska.
The cost?
Yeah.
Well,
he can do something about it.
Yes, he can. MWI 87 says, I'm tired of there being more to life than Husker football. I want my old life back. Okay.
So we better hang it up, man.
Yeah, we better. You know what? Thank you all for showing up. Thank you for supporting us. David Matney, one comment. Wouldn't a louder student section help create a better atmosphere for recruiting? You would think so, yes. I would think the student interaction with their people they're actually, the student athletes they're actually going to school with would be, more fun. And I think it would. Okay. Thank you again. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you for supporting us. This is Monday Night Therapy with John and Todd. Come back. We'll have more live shows like Thursday night, Saturday after the game. And, I just hit the little bell on our channel so you get notified when we do stuff. Okay. Good night, Todd.
Good night, John.